welcome here. If you are new, my name is Nikki. I am 22, almost 23 weeks pregnant with a baby girl. She is due in February. I'm also a toddler mom, so this will be my second baby. My son is 21 months old tomorrow. Because I have a boy and soon a girl, I wanted to do a names I love but won't be using for boy names and for girl names. So this is my top 10 boy names I love but won't be using, and I did my top 10 girl names that I love but won't be using. So that video is out. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely go and watch it. I will link it. As far as my name style, like names that I like, I tend to go for more like vintage classic names, but I do like unique names as well. I'll probably mention this because a lot of these names got shot down by my husband, who does like more modern names. But as I said in my girl names video, because I can't use them, you can, so they won't go to waste. But yeah, so a lot of these names are from when I was pregnant with my son. My husband and I had so much trouble trying to agree on a name for my son. We ended up going with Noah Ridge. Noah is clearly a well-known, pretty popular name, but we went with a much more unique name for his middle name, and it is nature inspired because we really like nature names. Anyways, that's my little background. So let's get into the top 10 boy names I love but won't be using. All right, so my first one I would definitely say is a unique name because I never see it anywhere. So this name was actually from a movie that I'm blanking on right now, but the character's name is Sutter. Love movies, I love reading, so I am very inspired by character names. To me, it feels like it has kind of almost like a southern sort of feel. I've heard of the name Sutton, which I feel like is still kind of more of a unique name. But yeah, like I said, other than that movie where the main character's name is Sutter, I have never heard that name before. And yeah, definitely a bit more unique for my taste since I do like classic recognizable names, but that's how much I liked this name. Yeah, sadly, my husband Ian was not on board for this name, but I still really love it. I hope that somebody uses it. The second name that I really loved is Harvey. This name I got, of course, from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I am a huge fan of that show. I watched it growing up, and then I watched the like reboot or the new Sabrina show on Netflix. If you know that show, then you know Harvey, and he's just a classic character. And yeah, that was just a name I really liked. So that's where I know that name from, and I adore it. I love it so, so much. But when I brought it up to Ian at the time, I was pregnant in 2020, and it wasn't too long after some of the scandals with the producer of the same name had been going on, so there was some negative connotations, and that's like the first thing that came to Ian's mind. But obviously for me, I associate Harvey with Harvey from Sabrina. The thing is though, I feel like if you were to name your child Harvey, people aren't going to associate anything negative with that child. The great thing about new babies with names is that there is a whole new breath of fresh air into that name. So I still love it, and I think because it's a timeless name that's been around for so long, it can kind of overcome any hurdles that any one individual might have put on that name. For number 3, I have Forrest. I love this name. I love that it is nature inspired, but I also like that it's not too out there. Again, I tend to like names that are a bit more recognizable. Obviously, it's not like one of your just like kind of common names, I guess, which makes it kind of cool. Through all this baby name research, I've come to find that I tend to gravitate more towards shorter names or names that have like an easy nickname. And for Forrest, I really could not find a good nickname for it that I loved. I think Ian suggested like Four or like Forry, but I just didn't love the sound of either of those, so I just couldn't get on board. That was why we didn't end up using that name, but it's such a good one, and I feel like I don't hear it that often. So. For number 4, we have the name that we actually almost named Noah. Like, he was very, very close to having this name, and that name is Shiloh. and I like that it is a unisex name. So I think it would be really cool for a boy or for a girl. We were literally calling Noah by Shiloh for I think a couple months when I was pregnant. Like we were pretty sure that was gonna be his name. The problem was, and I mentioned this in my last video too, about how I love the sound of a whole name. So for us, our last name starts with an SH, and obviously so does Shiloh. So it was just very like shh. It was just quite a mouthful, and we had not put it together because we always just put like the first name and middle name, but we never really said like the whole name or said just like the first and last name. Yeah, so we ended up just feeling like it was a bit of a mouthful, and we didn't really love like the flow of that name. And we felt like Noah Ridge definitely had much more of a flow to it, but I still love Shiloh, and someone should use it because it's a very good name. The next name is a name that I've had on my list for forever. I've always loved this name, and that name is Jude. I was a nanny on and off for like pretty much a decade, like all throughout high school and college. It was a side job that I did. And whenever I would sing a lullaby to any of my kids, I always sang them Beatles songs. And one in particular was Hey Jude. So I always thought like, oh, when I have kids one day, like it'd be so cool to name my son Jude so I could sing that song to him. But yeah, I love that name so much. And I really thought that that would be like a name I would go with. But when I was pregnant with my son, my husband at the time, he had a coworker that had this name. But yeah, so that's kind of like who came to mind when we like had the name, and we were just felt like too much like, oh, we'd be naming like our child after this person. Like, I don't know, it just felt too like close to home. So we didn't end up going with Jude because of that, but I still will always like hold a special place for that name. Okie dokie. Next is a name that we all know, but I feel like it's not like crazy popular, but it's just such a good one, and that name is Charlie. Obviously, this is such a timeless name, and I just feel like it's so warm and inviting. It's such a literary name. Like I said, I love character names. Even though it's like very heavily recognizable, I feel like I don't see it a ton on like name lists. So I don't feel like it's too like overused in that way. But we actually both have a good friend of ours whose name is Charlie, so that's kind of who we like thought about. And yeah, I think especially with your firstborn, you know, we really wanted to go with a name that, you know, wasn't after anybody. And yeah, there's a lot of great names, honestly, that we didn't go with because we like knew somebody with that name. Okay, next is Kit, and this is spelled K-I-T. This is a name that I just like came across on a name list. It's definitely more of like a vintage name. I have not heard it very much, and I think I've only come across it on like one name list. So I would say it's definitely still more unique. I couldn't get Ian on board with it, but like if I met someone named Kit, I would just be like, that's really cool. Like I said, I like short names or like nickname names. So I feel like Kit is really cool. I don't know, there's something about it that's just super fun and kind of has like a character name vibe to it. It's a fun one. All right, next on my list is the name Seth, and I just realized I have a lot of S names on my list. Like I think I have 4. So I don't know what's up with that, but S is a good letter, I guess. But yeah, Ian was not super into Seth, and I think he said he thought of like Seth Rogen, I think. So I think, yeah, that's like where his name association went. I don't know, Seth just gives me like cool vibes. Yeah, I really like that name. Next, I have the name Reid, spelled R-E-I-D. Honestly thought Ian would be super on board with, but he was not. He did not love it for whatever reason. So ultimately that's why we didn't go with it. I've only met one Reid, I think, in my life. And I remember like meeting them and being like, wow, that's a cool name. I've never heard that before. Yeah, so I like that it's not overly used. It's not like super common. But again, I feel like it's recognizable enough, and yeah, it has a good sound. Just overall, good name. The last name on my list is another S name, surprise, surprise, and this name is Shepherd. This is definitely more of like a unique name, but I feel like with a lot of last names becoming popular as first names, I think that's why we're starting to see it kind of on name lists here and there. It's not a name I ever would have thought of as a first name, but when I saw it, I just kind of fell in love with it. And I like that even though it's not like nature inspired, it's close to nature a bit. I don't know, I feel like there's something like earthy about it, and I think Shep is really cute. I feel like it's still a bit more out there, but it's not like it wouldn't be like wild if you named your kid that, you know what I mean? Like it was recognizable enough, at least for me. I also love this name as a middle name. I feel like it would be a really good middle name. And yeah, that concludes my top 10 boy names that I love but will not be using. I hope you got some good ideas from this video. I love these kind of videos. That's why I wanted to make my own. Yeah, let me know if you have any of these names on your baby name lists, if you considered any of these names, or if you have a child with one of these names, because obviously I'm a fan of them. Yeah, I know names are hard, so hopefully you got some ideas from this video. Again, you can always think of first or middle names. If you haven't watched my girl name video, definitely check that one out as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!